Joining me now is Simon Marcotte. He's president and CEO at Northern Superior Resources. Nice to meet you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me, Mark.
So a fascinating story. You are consolidating the Chibougamau district. You've got 4 deposits. You're near IM Gold projects, including Filibert, that's about 9 kilometers away from IM Gold, which has Nelligan. It's also got Monster as well, I guess, right? Monster Lake. So can you give us a brief snapshot of the strategy?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, the Chibougamau Gold Camp, we think is the next big thing, right? In recent years, you had the Gold Camp of Finland doing well, Guyana doing well. Obviously, the big camp of Yukon was emerging. And to me, the gold business is more often than not about camps that are emerging. That was the core. It is the core of the strategy of Agnico Eagle to build these mining hubs. And we saw an opportunity in the Chibougamau Gold Camp, as the camp is already 10 million ounces, and there's still a lot of low-hanging fruit to build ounces there. But we saw something very unique to this camp, where all of these deposits were much closer to one another than any of these other camps that we were looking at. So we saw an opportunity to take advantage of the dark days of mining that we went through, where no one could raise capital. So we saw an opportunity there to consolidate a lot of that camp. And now we have, as you mentioned, 4 key projects in the area. At least 2 or 3 of them are potentially standalone projects. But I do believe that further consolidation would make an enormous amount of sense. It is a camp that is being compared to the Fort Knox mining complex of Kinross in Alaska to the north. And therefore, what I mean by that is that you have different type of deposits that are really complementary to one another. For example, our Filibert is a bulk tonnage type project, but has, for this type of project, considerably a higher grade. So if you start by mining that, you would drastically lower the payback period of a unified project. So listen, this camp is emerging rapidly. It will be good for everyone. We are advancing our projects within that camp, but I think that camp will continue to attract a lot more attention. And just yesterday, Dore got acquired or merged with an Australian company with a very strong group, very strong access to capital. Looks like Australia is moving in Quebec, and right. Australia has become a good indicator of where things are going. Australian money went into iron ore in Quebec at the right time. Australian money went into battery materials in Quebec at the right time. And now it looks like Australian money is moving into gold, and especially where we are. So quite exciting days ahead.
For sure. Now, you've said that what's good for IM Gold is good for Northern Superior Resources. So, and you say your assets are complementary. So is it just inevitable there's some kind of an arrangement between the 2 companies?
Well, when I say what's good for IM Gold is good for us and the camp, what I mean by that is what's good for IM Gold, and you can read to this, if the ramp up at Côté does well, right? If they can ramp up the Côté mine in Ontario smoothly, then it really opens the door for them to divert time, resources, personnel to their next stage of development, which is the Chibougamau Gold Camp, where we are, which appears to be right. The Chibougamau Gold Camp where we are. And to that effect, they started to be more and more active. Right now, this year they're drilling quite a bit at Nelligan. They are drilling at Monster Lake. We expect a new resource on Monster Lake from them in the months ahead. They also are drilling at Anik, which is between our Filibert and their Nelligan. They acquired recently another project in the area called the Lac à l'eau jaune, the lake with the yellow water. So they're starting to devote attention. So the more they devote attention to it and they join us in being active and drilling things out, the more this camp will be brought up to the spotlight. Yep.
So you've got a 9-month, 20,000 meter expansion drilling program at Filibert. What are the main goals there, would you say, in terms of what you're doing?
So at this stage, we really want to see how large these assets can be. So we published a resource on Filibert, which is just about 2 million ounces at 1.1 gram. Although I'll mention, take a look at the sensitivity table there, because if you move up the cutoff grade just a tiny bit at Filibert from 0.35 to 0.5, we lose only about 10% of the ounces, yet our grade becomes 50% higher than Nelligan.
Okay.
So when I was talking about reducing a payback period and the reason why it's common sense to find eventually a structure to put it all together, I think that's a key reason why. But right now we're focused on Filibert because we think it is Filibert currently that adds a lot more value to the camp as a whole. And we're looking right now to see how big Filibert can get. So we are currently drilling to the southeast portion of the pit to extend the mineralization southeast. And then in the winter, we're going to move the rigs to expand the mineralization to the northwest. And then probably a new resource update in the spring or the summer after this. Okay,
very good. Now, I want to get to, well, let's talk about the valuation, and then we'll get to the TPK project, the on-gold spin-out. But so Vanstar was bought for 40 an ounce.
That's right.
You're currently trading around 20 an ounce.
That's right.
And then National Bank analysts have said, some of the assets in that region could be 100 an ounce. So how do you bridge that gap?
Well, so National Bank published a piece of research about this camp, especially talking about Nelligan, Monster Lake, and this being the next stage of growth for IM Gold. I'll correct you a little bit. National Bank said that it could be worth $100 US per ounce.
Okay.
So then that brings it up to about $130, $135 Canadian dollars an ounce. Mm-hmm. And they paid $40 per ounce for Vanstar. And they paid $40 an ounce for Vanstar when gold was quite a bit lower, right? 7-8 months ago now. And just to clarify for people who don't know, Vanstar was their joint venture partner on Nelligan, right? So makes sense. If you're about to create value in the camp, you probably want to own the assets entirely first, right, before you create value for everybody. Yeah. And like you said, we are trading right now at $20 an ounce, so plenty of room for us to increase that gap, and plenty of ways for that to happen. Obviously, with the drill bit, historically, we've been finding gold at a much lower price than that, so very accretive work that we're doing. Further M&A in the camp and involving us on one side or the other will help that. And generally speaking, with the news flow, making our resource better, I think will continue to increase our valuation. But needless to say, we're very cheap at this point with a pretty exciting story.
So OnGold is a spin out, and Northern Superior still owns 72% of that. They've got the TPK project, and you're saying that could be a world-class discovery. So give us a snapshot of that.
Yeah, so I mean the TPK project is I always say quasi-famous. Once you've heard about it, you can't forget it. So TPK in Ontario is the largest gold and till anomaly in the world. No, well, in North America, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's the largest in the world as well. We haven't checked, but I mean just the main area is 11 kilometers by 6 kilometers, and a gold and till anomaly is when a gold deposit was, the way I say it, is pushed around by a glacier, right, and it was kind of scraping the floor, if you want, leaving a trail of pieces of gold in the soil. So you need to find the source of that, right? And one drill hole that came out was 25 grams over 13 meters. So that starts to look like a rock to me. Yeah. There's a famous boulder that was found on his property as well of 727 gram a ton gold. So I don't usually get excited with things that move around at surface, but this is something. So So what we've done there is that we've done a spin-off. This company now is called On Gold, for Ontario Gold. It's a new listing. It is well capitalized, and then we built around it a management team that is second to none, and that can accomplish things and create value with this asset, and elsewhere in Ontario as well, where we can potentially go after other projects in the future and unlock value there as well. So to your point, Northern Superior still owns 72% of On Gold. Obviously it's a transition period, so many ways to complete that transition. But for the time being, if On Gold is successful, obviously Northern Superior will benefit greatly from that.
Simon, the company recently raised $8 million. Insiders and management own about 25%, so lots of skin in the game there. What's the overall pitch to investors?
Yeah, so we did raise about $8 million recently. That's enough for plenty of leeway for our drilling program now, plus the one in the winter, and so we're not looking to raise capital for a while. Out of the 8 million, insiders and management took down $1 million in total. After this investment, you're right, we own about 25% of the company ourselves, and in very, very strong hands, right? The largest shareholder is Mr. Michael Gentile, who I think you do talk to.
Yeah, we've spoken to a few times, yeah.
Yeah, so Michael Gentile is the largest shareholder. He's really on the board of companies. He's on the board of Northern Superior, very active. It's one of his largest position. And also Victor Cantore is executive chairman. So I'm far from just by myself here. So Victor Cantore, exec chairman, as the CEO of Amex Exploration. We have a lot of technical depth without going through it. But we have a lot of skin in the game, and we like to make money. So we get up in the morning. So exciting days ahead.
All right, that's all you need to know. Thank you, Simon.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, very good. Simon Marcotte, President, CEO at Northern Superior Resources.